Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here, and I've got a pretty spicy video for you all today. Today, I'm going to talk to you all about why Necrolord Warlock, I'm using Warlock as a general term here for all three specs, is rising value-wise rapidly, at least in my opinion. Now, I've gotten a lot of questions over the last few days. Hey, 9.15's out. Why did you go Necrolord even though you can play any covenant you want now? Why are you targeting Necrolord for renown leveling faster than, or I guess before Kyrian, before Venthyr, and all that? Number one, Destro Necrolord has been something I wanted to play for a long time. I enjoyed it a bit when we played it last time, but I also enjoy Necrolord aesthetically as a covenant. But I've been running sims over the past week and a half leading up to 9.15 with a couple people from the Warlock Discord who work on the APLs and things. Father-daughter being one of them who works on the Affliction APL. And things have increased drastically damage-wise for AF. We knew Destro was good. And there are some Demonology sims that are actually really impressive. And I don't know if I missed the message on this. I don't know, but we'll get into that. Now, I do also want to mention that these sims here and the actual gameplay you're going to see, the sims have full empowered conduits on them. I only have one empowered conduit in game right now. I'm like 67 renown or something with Necrolord. So there might be a bit of disparity as far as like the raw DPS goes in the sims and what you see in the actual gameplay in game in this video. And to a similar extent, remember, unholy bonuses are active in the sims. They are not active, or I guess they won't be active if I'm hitting dummies at Orgrimmar and Night Vale land, and maybe even Necrolord land, we'll see. But regardless, I'm really excited to get back into Sanctum next week and play with more Necrolord stuff. After Destro, and honestly, I haven't played Demo and Raid in a few weeks, probably like a month, but maybe even Demonology. We'll see. Any Week Warriors profiles or add-ons you see here, you can grab all for free off my Twitch. If you want to swing by, hang out, to grab them anytime, feel free to do so. Also want to give one massive shout out to my patrons. Thank you a million times for all the support, guys. I really truly do indeed appreciate it. Also, to a similar extent, patch 9.2 hit the PTR vendor today. So with that being said, nothing is in motion as of yet, but when PTR does indeed hit, I will indeed be creating a new patch 9.12 PTR Warlock spreadsheet. The tier 3 failure rank on my Patreon or higher does indeed get early access to that. With that being said, let's get into the video, starting off with, I guess, the Affliction sims. Okay, so for Affliction Warlocks, leading up to 9.15 and things, I had messed a little bit with Necrolord on PTR, starting off the Necrolord. Necrolord was the first video we made in the Covenant series, or was supposed to be a Covenant series on PTR. We never finished it, actually, but we talked a bit about Necrolord Destro, Demo, and AF in ways that it could potentially be improved. However, I realized one thing during some offline testing and things is that Necrolord's single target damage was actually a lot more impressive than it simmed, honestly. Sims had us sitting at like 9.4k DPS, playing essentially the same build that I am half playing here. I'm actually in my demo gear, but it's fine regardless, playing Malefic Wrath and things like that. Now, but it actually seemed a lot closer to Night Fae when I actually ended up playing with it in game and things. And I dug a bit into the actual APLs of the Necrolord Malefic Wrath sims, and they were all over the place. This is not the correct sim here, but it was like casting Phantom Singularity after your Dark Lair. It wasn't built around Kevin's Oozling being Plague Divisor's final ability here. It wasn't rapturing properly. It wasn't maintaining Malefic Wrath. And I said to myself, there's probably a lot of room for improvement here, which is why I contacted one of the APL writers for AF, Father-daughter, and the Lock Discord, and we worked through it. Now, I don't have those old sims, or on my stream somewhere in the VOD, you can probably find them, but it was like 9.3, 9.4k, and like I said, the rotation was a complete mess. However, we have managed to find a lot more DPS in Necrolord single target. So this is my Night Fae sim. You can see I'm playing Soul Rod here. This is Night Fae, all that. This is full empowered conduits. I sim for 10,618 DPS, playing at Dreamweaver. Now, initially, the next sim you're going to see here is a Necrolord Malefic Wrath sim. Keep in mind, every sim here for AF is Malefic Wrath based, so single target. The initial sim we had for Affliction Necrolord with Malefic Wrath, at least I had for my character, was like 9.4k. Well, we found some improvements. So this is the first iteration, I guess the first improved sim that we have run. 10,270 DPS. Now, we've actually gone back and forth between Haunt and Shadow's Embrace. Shadow's Embrace is simming a tiny bit higher for me, but it's having trouble actually maintaining Malefic Wrath stacks playing Shadow's Embrace in the actual opener here at times, and not when you're playing Haunt. Like, it drops here for a bit, for a little while, and it actually ends up refreshing like half a minute later and drops again. It's sort of odd. There's room for improvement there potentially with Shadow's Embrace. You can see, however, in this opener here, this is like one of the initial changes we made a few days ago. It was still PSing after the Dark Lair, but the big thing was that we caught the actual Malefic Wrath maintenance. We said, okay, We probably should move Decimating Bolt before the Raptures for Kevin's Oozling buff on your target. 6% more damage. It doesn't make a difference really as long as you cast your Drain Soul after the bolt and you stack Shadow's Embrace before that. So more improvements from there. We moved on. It went from 10,270, initially being 9,600, all the way up to where we currently are, which is 10,558 damage for Necrolord single target playing Malefic Wrath. Now, I've simmed a Haunt build, I've simmed a Shadow's Embrace build, and once again, the Shadow's Embrace build, from what I've seen, is having trouble maintaining the Malefic Wrath stack. It drops, I think it dropped in here somewhere. In one of the sims, it dropped for a bit in the actual intermission. And this one seems to be maintaining for the most part. But regardless, Shadow's Embrace has been simming about the same, if not a bit higher for me. Regardless, though, we found about 900 DPS. 10,558 versus 10,618 for Night Fae. They are incredibly close here. Like, incredibly close. But the playstyle between the two changes. Night Fae being Soul Rot versus Necrolord being Decimating Bolt. So with Night Fae Soul Rot, you follow the Rapture cycles we do, which is like every minute you maintain Malefic Wrath for about 40-ish seconds, you let it drop about 15 before your Soul Rot, and every minute you have your PS, your Soul Rot, your Rapture windows that you stack back to 3 stacks of Malefic Wrath, and then drain from there, and rinse and repeat over and over and over. With Necrolord, you maintain Malefic Wrath the entire duration of the fight, which might sound like it's a bit taxing and a bit annoying, but honestly, the more I've played with it, I think it might actually be even easier than Night Fae, because it's much more forgiving. With Night Fae, you're trying to pull shards at a certain point to Rapture back up to 3 stacks during your PS Soul Rot window. But with Necrolord, typically if you just maintain the buff and aren't aggressive with Raptures, you'll get to a point where you'll be sitting on like 2-3 shards. And even if it drops, you can just go, okay, I messed up, 1, 2, 3, back to full stacks, and you're draining again. It's actually nowhere near as punishing as the Night Fae build, I think personally actually is. And with there being, 70-ish, a 70-ish DPS disparity here, but honestly, probably a decent bit more room for improvements in the APL and things, it's actually in a pretty good spot. As you can see here, Phantom Singularity, Dark Soul, Dark Light, everything here, bolting here. Now, I think there's room to bolt here after the Drain Soul, which gives you Kevin's Oozling earlier to cover the Phantom Singularity ticks, the Dark Lair, earlier Dark Lair cast, whatever, and all the Raptures here as well, right? But either way, going from 9,500 or whatever DPS to 10,558, that's a substantial jump in single target. But keep in mind, if you're playing Necrolord, you are basically a single target Affliction. I mean, you can play Sow the Seeds and Wrath and Agony, but you don't have Decaying Soul Satchel like Night Fae does. Plus, you're missing Soul Shape. You have Fleshcraft, but you don't have Soul Shape. So there's a lot of trade-offs here. Now, I will say at this point, Night Fae is indeed still swimming better. But let's take a bit of a look. Let's take a look at some gameplay as far as Aff is concerned, playing Malefic Wrath. Now, keep in mind here, if I was to play Night Fae and then show you Necrolord here, Night Fae will be able to maintain on these dummies higher DPS overall because of the 1-minute Rapture windows in the Malefic Wrath cycles and things. The dummies don't go into execute here for Necrolord. So I'm not getting the huge increase to Decimating Bolt. I'm not getting the Drain Soul damage amp, which stacks with Decimating Bolt and Malefic Wrath and Withering Bolt. So we're missing a huge portion of our damage in that actual window. But nonetheless, the actual damage that Affliction can maintain outside of execute is still pretty impressive. When you get there, your damage is incredible. Let's take a look at it. All right, so there are a few minor differences between the Night Fae version and Necrolord version of Malefic Wrath Affliction. Unlike Night Fae, Necrolord maintains the Malefic Wrath debuff at 3 stacks for the entire fight. It never falls. Malefic Wrath has these 1-minute Night Fae has these 1-minute Soul Rot windows where you cast your Soul Rot with your PS, you Rapture, and you restack Malefic Wrath at 3 stacks, letting it fall like 15-ish seconds before you Soul Rot, which gives you like these large damage spikes, like spikes in damage, albeit nowhere near as big as Venthyr Boomkin, but it's spikier, right? Now, also when it comes to this actual like dummy I'm gonna hit here, we will not, most likely will not see the actual execute part of Decimating Bolt and the Necrolord bonus that it gets. So Night Fae will indeed, in my testing at least, I also have 2 empowered conduits here, or 1 and not 3 like in the Sims show, but Necrolord Malefic Wrath Aff will not be as overall high damage wise as Night Fae will. Night Fae I've had like 8.4, 8.5, 8.6k after about 4.5 minutes on a dummy. I've had like 7.5, upwards of 8-ish at times in these dummies, depending how low it actually gets. But once again, we can't actually see the execute part of this rotation because the dummy won't be that low. Now, on top of that, with this build, from what we've seen in Sims, how we tested things, I would assume this is due to like Withering Bolt. Phantom Singularity synergy, more dots, bigger Drain Soul value, and permanent Malefic Wrath versus Rapture windows. From what we've seen in Sims, the APL is still being worked on, but at this current point in time, it looks better to cast your Phantom Singularity with your Decimating Bolt on cooldown, which means they won't line up with your second Dark Glare. You'll have them on full, and you'll have them for third Dark Glare roughly at the 4-minute mark, right? Because they'll be like, 10-ish seconds off each other. You can just sync them up. But you won't have a Phantom Singularity with extension for your Dark Glare and Dark Soul at 2 minutes. It seems awkward, but it's just what's simming better currently. So before you pull the boss, don't forget the Fleshcraft for your mastery buff, right? All right, so opener wise, pre-cast, we're playing Shadow's Embrace here over Haunt. Shadow's Embrace is sim a tiny bit higher for me. You can play Haunt if you want. It's fine. We'll see what happens in the long run. Either way, pre-cast Unstable Affliction, Agony, Corruption, Siphon Life, Drain to Shadow's Embrace 3 stacks here. You're playing SE. 1, 2, 3. Then we go Decimating Bolt. We go Ruby, Phantom Singularity, Dark Soul, Dark Glare, Berserking, whatever you got, Potion if you got it, Rapture 3 times, Drain Soul. Now, depending how your charge in is here, you can probably throw an extra Rapture in, give or take, because there is a Phantom Singularity up. It's a little bit more dot damage. But the big thing here is you're just maintaining Malefic Wrath permanently for the rest of this fight. Shadow's Embrace is 16 seconds now. It's very hard to let it drop at this point. Keep in mind, 9.1, they increase the duration by a substantial amount. And you're really just maintaining here, honestly. Now, we have Decimating Bolt and Singularity in about 14 seconds here. Keep in mind, we're going to win them. We're not holding them for the actual Dark Glare cast anymore. Refresh with Rapture. Draining a bit here. I'll refresh this Corruption. Refresh the Siphon Life here. Probably going to Rapture one more time here. I will. Catch the Agony a little early. Cast the actual Bolt before the Singularity for Kevin's Oozling buff. Rapture, refresh. There's your big drain. Now, it's very, very, very important to not interrupt this drain, because this drain, you want to get full value. A periodic tick, well, I mean, you're not getting the full Decimating Bolt damage amp. It's not going to give you a half a drain if you clip it and do it again. So you want to make sure that if you can, you plant and get that full drain value, and make sure you have your actual Shadow's Embrace stacks up and your 3-stack of Malefic Wrath. And that's basically it. It's honestly pretty simple. We're at like 7.6, 7.5k here, but keep in mind, we're not getting the big damage if a Bolt being at the boss being at 80% or 60% or 40 or 20. Decimating Bolt's actual damage, once again, it will scale the lower the boss goes. So it's not like we're in a terrible spot. Most of the time, these dummies stay around 85, 90%, give or take, unless you have like 5 people wailing on them. So we can see technically Decimating Bolt being or hitting twice as hard, plus getting the 100% damage increase from Drain Soul in actual execute. Drain Soul dealt about 26.9% here, give or take. I mean, I stopped a bit early in that sim, but if you look at this here, go to the AF sims, 26.9 there. In the AF sims we ran, where are we at here? Drain Soul is dealing 33%, 30.5, 33, 31, give or take. You can see the actual, that's roughly like what, 7 to 8% higher than this, depending what you're looking at. You can see how strong the actual damage get the further into the fight. And if there are fights like, for example, I don't know, maybe Guardian the first ones, if it had a relevant execute check on it where you needed that big damage, this version of AF could be a bit more impactful. Now, it does still sim a bit less than Night Fae. I'm not saying that Necrolord is better than Night Fae. I'm not. But I'm just saying Necrolord is close. Single target wise, in a execute based fight, depending on how the final phase is, this version of AF actually could be. I think there's still some value left in trying to, we can probably find some value in the actual APL. So I think you can probably move a couple things around, maybe move Decimating Bolt cast around, or Kevin's Oozling uptime. But the fact of the matter is, this version of AF has gone from being a 9.5k sim to a 10.55k sim, and about 40-ish DPS behind what my single target Night Fae sim is. Necrolord, Destro, Demo, and AF, all 3 specs have actually been really impressive in sims, and just the raw damage they can put out. So I think the best known thing about Necrolord compared to Night Fae is that people have known Destruction is good and better simming for Necrolord than Night Fae, but the issue is, once again, Necrolord is more of a Decimating Bolt buffs your Incinerate, right? Versus Night Fae giving you Soul Rot, which is a bit of an AoE application, albeit not anywhere near as relevant as, you know, Affliction AoE with Rapture or things like that. We don't even really play DSS for Destro or Demo. It's really only an AF thing with Night Fae. But nonetheless, people have known that Necrolord overall has simmed better in single target and 2 target, well, than Night Fae. And that's pretty much what we see here. So like, this is my actual single target Destro sim as far as Night Fae is concerned. 10,197 DPS. So it's a bit low, about 1,000 DPS lower than my Demo sim, which, you know, is what it is, right? My 2 target sim. Keep in mind, these are all playing Cinders Everything's the same here. All the conduits are empowered too. We shift to, we're also playing Combusting Engine here, which is miserable, but this is a single target. We never played Destro in single target. And 2 target, we shift to Duplicitous Havoc, sitting at 14,355 DPS, which is, you know, once again, Night Fae. Expected, give her more, it's expected, right? Destro excels at this point in Sanctum and most settings in a 2 target Havoc based kind of setting. Now, I do think Chaos Bolt should have been buffed this patch. That's something in itself, but regardless, not terrible. Moving on to Necrolord though. So my single target actual sim for Night Fae, 10,197. For Necrolord, 10,445 DPS. So we're gaining about 250 DPS roughly, right? Still playing Cinders, all conduits being empowered here. Playing Fatal Decimation over the actual Soul Eater conduit. So Decimation is actually pretty powerful. It's not as good as Soul Eater in like 2+ target settings, but it's still fine. It's still solid. So playing this, about a 250-ish DPS increase. Interestingly enough, look at the actual incinerate damage here, with Night Fae being 21.3 and Chaos Bolt being 28. Necrolord 27.9 but 24.9 to incinerate. So you can see a bit of a difference there, about a 3.5% gain as far as incinerate's concerned. And if we go to the 2 target sim, we're sitting at 14,655 DPS. Once again, swapping out Duplicitous Havoc for swapping out Combusting Engine for Duplicitous Havoc. So we gained roughly, well, you know, actually exactly 300 DPS in 2 target, which is about what I expect to give or take, maybe a tiny bit less, but still, if you, I think it's sort of because your Havoc windows are still more or less Chaos Bolt based. Now you might get an Incinerate or 2 in them, and just in general, it might be a bit stronger, but regardless, we've known Destro is stronger when it comes to like these single target, 2 target, sim kind of settings. I mean, we still do have Kevin's Oozling. You play Plague Divisor basically everywhere you go. Kevin's Oozling is just incredibly strong. With Decimating Bolt being a 45-second cooldown, making your target take 6% increased damage on top of Roaring Blaze with Decimating Bolt damage amp, it gives you a bit of pseudo execute if you're below 20%, or, you know, technically the lower the boss goes, the more Decimating Bolt does from 100% to 0. So it's sort of like a stacking damage increase, I guess, a bit towards the end of the fight, but it will ramp up sort of similar to Aff and even Demo in a sense with Decimating Bolts or Demon Bolts the further you go into the fight. Now, like I said, rotationally, not much really changes. You're casting your Decimating Bolts on cooldown, keeping your Roaring Blaze up, casting your Incinerates, and that's basically it. There are times on certain fights where you're able to actually Decimating Bolt and then go into a Havoc window, but like I said, you're not going to be foregoing your Chaos Bolts at 5 shards to launch Incinerates, right? Even with playing like Shard of Annihilation, most likely. You still cast your Chaos Bolts, so it's basically like a passive kind of thing. You just cast Decimating Bolt, and you just, you know, do the normal builder spender version of Destro that we've known for a very long time, and you essentially just acquire, I don't know, a few hundred more DPS. It's sort of a no-brainer, and not really a whole lot else to it. So I'll fully admit here, there are a couple things with Demonology and Necrolord that I just missed. And that's sort of that. I'm going to say, similar to how like Aff is in Plus, I do think if you're looking at like a Mythic Plus kind of setting, Dreamweaver, like Field of Blossoms, haste, AoE implications and things, there probably is a bit more sway back towards Night Fae when it comes to that. But the sims for Demonology, Necrolord stuff, actually blew me away. I had no idea. So this is my Nia Demonology sim for Night Fae, right? We're 10,723 DPS, and to be fair, I can probably enchant things a little differently and optimize a few things in certain places. I haven't really played Demonology in a raid setting in probably about a month, give or take, right? We're playing Wilfred's here. That's similar across the board. We're playing Carnivorous, Born of Blood, and Tyrant Soul. You can play Falcommanda if you want. It just depends what you're doing. Carnivorous does sim a tiny bit higher, but it is consistent across the board. So my Dreamweaver sim is 11,104 DPS for Demonology. Once again, same conduits here, same ring, everything else is the same, right? So we gain about, I'd say roughly what, 500 DPS, give or take here, going to Dreamweaver. Now, I expected Necrolord to be, I don't know, 10,500 DPS, give or take. It hasn't been terrible, and there's always been talk about Necrolord Demonology being good, right? I've always sort of downplayed it. Yeah, well, but you have Nia with stamina scaling effects, you have Dreamweaver with haste effects, Field of Blossoms, Dream Delver. There is one large oversight, which to be fair, hasn't really been a thing until 9.1, and once again, Night Fae has been your only real covenant for lot because it's universally been good. But now we have different covenants open. I will admit I might have missed the mark here. I was expecting this to be like a 10,500 sim. It's over 11k. It's over 11,000 DPS. Now you can see Demon Bolt here being 8% of our damage versus this one being about 6.2. Our Tyrant being a little bit smaller, probably due to like stamina scaling or other haste-based effects in Dreamweaver and things, right? But regardless, the damage is still there. Now, the big thing that I missed I didn't think this worked due to the wording on the ability. Kevin's Oozling. So I'll just enter combat here briefly. Let's send my pet in. I'll summon my tyrant out. Let's just pull the tyrant out now. Attack, right? Here we go. There we go. All this stuff cool. Attack. Attack. Swing tyrant. Tyrant attacks. I'll cast Kevin. So let's see. He hit for 2800. Kevin, apply debuff. 2800, 3100, 3050, 3060. Your tyrant's demon fire damage is increased by Kevin's Oozling. I had no idea this was actually a thing. I feel like most people actually didn't. I'm sure some did, and someone was like, oh yeah, I knew. Of course I knew. But like, dude, I've not heard this mentioned anywhere. And I've talked to a handful of people about it already. Now, it does indeed appear to actually be that way and reflected in the actual sims. Looking at the actual like rotation here, it opens up properly. Grimoire, Vile Fiend, Ruby, which should be a little later after Dogs, not a big deal either way. Double Bolt back to 5 shards, cast your Dogs, hand, Shadow Bolt, hand, depending on proccing things, Tyrant, but it pushes the Bolt cast back until after your Tyrant. You want to go hand, Shadow Bolt, hand for the extra, like, extra imps with energy being frozen from your Tyrant, but then it bolts. It bolts about 4 seconds after the Tyrant, which albeit is going to cover like 2/3 of it, give or take. But if you notice, I mean, Bolt is a 45-second cooldown, so it should be bolting technically again at the minute mark, right? But it's not. The APL in cast sequencing is built around holding Decimating Bolt to after your Tyrant cast with Wilford. So every single Tyrant, you're holding your Demon Bolt or Decimating Bolt. So you get the actual 6% Kevin's Oozling damage amp every single time. Flesh crafting on cooldown. Here's your Grimoire. Here's some Tyrant setup. Once again, Decimating Bolt at 219. And I'm going to say, we'll look at some actual rotational gameplay here in a sec. The damage is, it's there. The damage is surprising. It's consistent. And now Incinerate and Drain Soul for Aff and Destro. Yeah, I mean, Roaring Blaze, Incinerate damage, Kevin's Oozling amp, sure. And Drain Soul, Malefic Wrath, Execute damage, Decimating Bolt. Those get amplified a good bit in the final phase. Like the further you go into the fight, right? Especially in Execute for Aff. Demonology, yeah, you'll still get the increase to Demon Bolt damage to further the lower the boss is, but you're not hitting some ranging like, okay, Demon Bolt goes from being 5% to 30% of your damage. It's just smooth damage across the fight with a minor increase into the later parts of it. Let's take a look at how it looks in combat. All right, I have to say I can't really believe that I'm playing Necrolord Demonology in single target, but the damage is just really good. So before you go into any fight, make sure you fleshcraft for your volatile solvent ability from the Plague Divisor trait. So we're not precasting a soul rot, we're not soul rotting after our Tyrant, but we are still going to cast the same opener pretty much besides that, at least up until your Tyrant cast. So precasting Demon Bolt, like I said here. Once that goes off, let's lust it. We go Grimoire, Vile Fiend, build the 5 shards, hoping for a calling proc here for Dogs. Didn't get it, feels bad, it's okay. Ruby. Build back to 5 here and try and squeeze in a handful of imp casts. I can probably get one more off here. There we go. Hand of Gul'dan, Tyrant, and Zerking Pod if you got it, all that stuff. Hand of Gul'dan, Shadow Bolt, Hand of Gul'dan, Decimating Bolt, and then we can pop our Demonic Strength for the Oozling coverage once we get Kevin up. And besides this, I mean, we're just building and spending. There are our Dogs. Our damage is at what, like 11k, 11.5. There are some Bolt proc right there. Launch that. 12k, 13k probably soon enough here. Cast a couple of hands. Still have a Decimating Bolt charge left here. Bolt, Bolt. And at this point, Tyrant's expiring. We have Tyrant Soul coverage, but like the damage is impressive and it's consistent too. Keep in mind, we are indeed holding Decimating Bolt for our Tyrant cast, but with it being a 45-second cooldown versus Tyrant being a minute roughly with Wilfred's, there really isn't much of an issue there. And that was with Lust, with Pop, but I mean, that was without Power Infusion. That was without like a actual real Lust. I mean, as much as I'd like to, you know, call drums a real Lust at this point, it's, well, for the most part, not. About 18 seconds left here, so we can go Vile Fiend, basically, right? Build another shard here, and then go basically into these Dogs. Dogs, and begin our hand, bolt, hand cast sequencing. Hand, bolt, hand. Bolt, hand, bolt. Go into this final one here. Pop our Tyrant. Hand, bolt. You can go hand again. Decimating Bolt. Demonic Strength, and we just continue going from there. Look at our damage. We're sitting at like 8.5k. We're climbing here. 8.5k, 8.6. Probably 9k after this Demon Bolt hit here, or Demon Fire cast. 8.9k, 9k, there you go. Damage is impressive. It's very, very consistent, unlike Aff and Destro, which are, you know, semi-consistent, but have that larger damage amp when you get further into the fight with Roaring Blaze, like Drain Soul, Execute damage, amp stacking and things. The damage is just consistent. The Kevin's Oozling damage you get every single Tyrant, or the damage amp, it's just good. It's just solid. There's really not a whole lot else to it, honestly. Maintaining 8.3, 8.4, roughly going to our Tyrant here. Necrolord Demo is surprisingly strong in single target. Once again, the haste effects from Dreamweaver and other things, Mythic Plus, being able to apply multiple Dream Delver abilities versus Kevin being sort of like toggleable and tabbable, I guess, is a bit rougher. I would still say like Necrolord is better in single target, but not as good in like Mythic Plus as Night Fae is. But regardless, the damage is impressive. Damage is there. This backs up what it shows in Sims. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Now, like I said, I wanted to make this video number one because I've been impressed by the AF and the Demo Sims for Necrolord. But also, I've gotten a lot of questions about why did you choose Necrolord first, or I guess why are you playing Necrolord now, why are you leveling its renown, all that kind of stuff. Now, I do want to say, yes, Necrolord Destruction is higher than Night Fae, and the Demo version of it is very close to Night Fae, and the AF Malefic Wrath playstyle is also close, but that's not factoring in other things. Night Fae is better in AoE. 100% as far as AF is concerned, it's infinitely better. Decaying Soul Satchel is so good when it comes to playing Sow the Seeds and just AF AoE. Even when it comes to like Demo and Destro, like having Field of Blossoms, having Dreamweaver, having Dream Delver, having that haste window where you can get Havoc value out, or I guess just, you know, Tyrant value, whatever what have you. Night Fae is better, I think, when it comes to plus and overall AoE settings, and very similar depending on what spec you're looking at for single targets. I still give the nod overall to Night Fae. That's not even including Soul Shape. Yes, Fleshcraft is good. It definitely is. But Soul Shape is on another level. Soul Shape is like just S tier. Everything else is like, I don't know, A, B, C tier. Soul Shape is incredible. Night Fae is still very good, but I've been very impressed with Necrolord. And I'm not even at, you know, max renown here. I have one empowered conduit in that actual gameplay. It's been fun. It's been a change of pace. So if you're looking at playing, you know, Venthyr, Kyrian, Necrolord, all three seem fine. Venthyr has strengths. I'll be making videos on that at some point. Kyrian does too. But Necrolord legitimately has impressed me. The Demo Sim is within 100 DPS of my Night Fae Dreamweaver Sim, which is like the highest Demo Sim out there I can possibly get. I've been impressed. Now, let's be honest, Demo still has some issues in combat, Scuffed Tyrants, Demon, some issues. But regardless, Necrolord's been good. I've been impressed. Let me know what you guys think of this video in the Necrolord Covenant down below in the comment section. If you have any questions, drop them down there as well. I will be sure to get back to you. Any weak ORS profiles or add-ons, once again, you can grab for free off my Twitch. If you want to swing by, hang out, ask any questions, feel free to do so. Also, one more time, a massive shout out to my patrons. Thank you a million times for all the support, guys. I really, truly do appreciate it. One more time, the when 9.2 PTR hits, which should be, I would assume, this month, the 9.2 vendor build went up tonight, which is not a retail or a live build. It is like an internal testing build. Typically, we see PTR about a week or so after that build hits vendor. I will indeed be creating a 9.2 Warlock PTR spreadsheet, same as the Sanctum Domination one, same as Castle Nathria, all that stuff. The tier 3 Felgar rank, my Patreon or higher, does indeed get early access to that if you're interested in looking at it. Well, that being said, if you want support, there should be a link somewhere up here, as well as in the video description down below. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed it, want to see more, be sure to smash the subscribe button below, hit the like button as well. It helps out a ton. Much love, dudes. I'll catch you all again soon on stream. Peace.